Okay, so for this tutorial, we're going to be triangulating a mesh for this very detailed beach. And to do that, we're going to generate a point cloud within SYNTHEYES, triangulate some geometry out of it, and then clean it up in Maya. With that being said, let me jump into it. I'm going to auto-track this, but I'm not going to go over what I'm doing because I'm not good at auto-tracking. So, here we go. Okay, so now that I added some points, I'm going to get a solve out of this. And again, I'm not good at AutoTrack, so you're going to witness me do some really crappy cleaning. But let's go to Solver. We're going to turn on lens distortion calculation and go. And let's swap into Refine so that we don't have to keep resolving this from scratch. So let's get rid of these high error points that are doing this weirdness. I'm going to go Shift-C to tracker cleanup. High error trackers. I'm going to turn this high error thing down to something like 2. I really want to knock out like almost everything. Short-lived trackers. I had a minimum of that already. Let's just, I don't know. I don't think that's going to, oh, it did grab something. Cool. Let's go select and look at selected couple of these bad ones, and assuming some of these ones have some bad results as well. What's bad frames? I don't know what that is. Oh, well, whatever. Fix. Let's do a quick solve and see if there's anything lingering that I can do manually. Yes, there is. There's a frame here popping. I'm going to I'm just going to delete that. Shift-G. By the way, if you don't have tracker radars, these red rings, right-click, go to View, show tracker radar right there. These red rings just show you which trackers have the most error. So if you see a spike like this, look at that. This tracker thought it can pop right there and thought it can get away with it. I'm actually just going to hit F7, look at it in here, and I'm going to go deglitch. Yeah, I still don't like that. Alright, let's go unlock it, disable it, re-enable the end. There we go, sure. Okay, again, I'm not good at cleaning up autos. I don't like autos. Alright, so with that being said, we have a solve error of 0.5. Fantastic. And I'm going to turn off these radars for now because we just don't need to see them anymore. This is the solve I'm kind of happy with for this tutorial. Okay, so now we have our solve, and let's move on to triangulating this mesh. Okay, so now with the solve going, let's do a very quick orientation and scale. So I'm going to go F4, and let's bring in an earthling. I'm going to go magic wand, click, drag, scale them in there. I'm going to make them about 170 centimeters. Close enough, 168, whatever. Okay, hole for scale. So if I move this around, sometimes you might have this happen, and when you scale, that happens. That's kind of bad. So I'm going to right click 3D, hole effects meshes off. And let's scale up the scene, rotate it, scale. W, E, and R lets you jump between these things very quickly. Okay, so let's scale up from the ground to the camera is about my height, and I'm pretty tall, so I'm going to land my face around the camera. And let's go with 4 on my keyboard so I can see the quad view with the perspective view. I'll hit lock to camera. And he's kind of getting clipped. That's because we scaled things up quite big, a little bit too big for SYNTHEYES, so I'm going to go solver, and by world size, I'm going to give an extra 0 right here. You could go a little bit more if you need, up to you. So back to 3D, hole, rotate, and now I can see the horizon line. So I'm going to first straighten out my grid to the shore a little bit right there. Let's see the end. So I'm looking at the horizon line, the faint little blue line right there. I want to drop it down. First, let's actually, I think that's fine. Level it right there, right at the center line, and now I can rotate this way. And I'm leveling out it right over here now. Be quiet, phone. Okay, now that's looks a little bit low, honestly. Back to 4. Either the solve is a little wrong, or I messed that up. I like that more. Yeah, okay. We're good with that. All right, so this is the orientation that we're working with. And now that we've done that, let's move on to triangulating the mesh. So triangulating a mesh. Triangulating a mesh typically requires a point cloud to be worth it. I'll show you on these few points first, just so you see what it is and how to do it. So I'm going to hit Control A to select all trackers. Right now, I don't really want the trackers that are on the logs. I just want, turn whole off. I'm just going to go to Trackers tab. So I can deselect these points. I just want the points to be on the beach and that's it. So anything that isn't on the ground, I'm going to get rid of. Actually, this one's pretty good. Back here's a little bit rough. Sure, fine. All right, so we have the points that we want to use for our mesh. If I hit F3 and go up to Orbit, now I have Maya style navigation on. If you don't have that on, come to Edit, Edit Preferences, switch to Perspective, and then right here, enable Maya style navigation in perspective. Check that on. That's if you're into Maya. All right, so Alt, and wow, I have some really far away points selected. Wow, I don't want these. Because SYNTHEYES likes to orbit around everything selected, so I'm going to deselect some unnecessarily far points like that. So F3, there we go, a lot more reasonable. So triangulating a mesh, here's how it works. You select your points that you want, right click, come to Mesh Operations, Convert to Mesh. Now what we have is, we have a piece of geo, but it's only vertices without connected edges. Without connected whatever, you get it. Right click, come back to Mesh Operations and triangulate. Now you can see we have polys, except here's one thing I want you to keep in mind. I'm going to undo that, that triangulate. It's based on wherever you're viewing, it's based on whatever viewpoint you currently have. So if you're locked to camera, or if you're orbiting around, it's going to triangulate differently. So if I triangulate at a weird angle like this, it's projecting from camera. So watch what it does right now. Right click, Mesh Operations, triangulate. So you can see how the faces are kind of stretched and weird now. Let's do that again. Let's do it at this angle right here. Get some overlap. Mesh Operations, triangulate. It doesn't look as bad right now, but I promise you this can get very, very messy and ugly. Why did it work as well as it did actually? Let's go right here. Okay, let's try this. Weird. This is actually working out better than usual, but I'll show you how bad it can get. So yeah, if you do it from there or project it from the top, you're going to get different results. So triangulate. Orbit, you can see that our faces are definitely a lot cleaner now. So if I hit F2 and the pipe key or the / key, the one that's under backspace, you can turn on wireframe or right click, come to view, solid meshes on off. Here's what we got. So now let's do it on, let's build a point cloud and then triangulate that. So building the point cloud. What we want to do is we want to use blips and the feature add many trackers. So I'm going to go over to the features tab and I'm going to blips all frames. Blips all frames, we have a lot of very crude trackers here and we can come into advanced and go auto reblip and then we can adjust these as we see fit. So yeah, we can adjust some of these parameters and make sure that we weed out some really, really bad stuff. I'm going to admit, I'm not good at this. So I'm actually just going to leave it as it is and just deal with what we got. So these points, we're going to tell add many trackers here to pull 0.8 trackers out of these blips. 0.8 trackers are going to give us 3D points that don't influence the solve. So to do this, just to make this simple, because I don't actually touch much stuff in here either, I'm going to I can't highlight. Let's close this. I'm going to highlight an area that I want to turn into a mesh. I always do this in sections. And then we're going to come back into add mini trackers. Let's set this to defaults. So I'm going to go minimum frames, which I think I already did in that other one. I don't want points that don't last long. I'm also going to check off only within last lasso, which is why I drew that section. And desired points, we have more available, but let's just stick with 1,000. So I'm going to go add, and when I click off, you can see we have a bunch of zero weight points there now, little auto tracks, but again, these aren't going to influence the solve. They're all zero weighted. So this is what we have, and now let's get some more going across the beach. So let's go back into features, and let's go find an area that we can highlight again. I'm avoiding the logs because I don't want those. Add mini trackers, add. And let's see if we can get this over here, the shore, add, and if there's anything I missed, can we pull anything out of this area here? Maybe not. Those points don't last very long. 2 available. Wow, that's not very helpful. Okay, so now we have a lot of points. Let's go into trackers just so we can see things better. So anywhere there's a point is a spot that we're going to generate a mesh. Notice we have some empty space here and there. If you want to, make a tracker, hold C, make a tracker, and shrink your, do whatever you got to do. I hope you know how to track a point. 5 lock on, hit W on your keyboard, or come down to 0 weight, ZWT. So now when I track, you can see we have a 3D point already. So it's already calculated a point using the solve. So I can do a bunch of these zero weighted points and add some extra points where I think that I might need them. Whoop. Again, you can spend more time on your solve than I am. You can see how loose some of these points are. There's a lot of erroring going on. Let's see, I can get some in the far background. And I could go even further with some points here that I trust. But yeah, once again, don't shoot on a camera with rolling shutter and take more time on your solve. What else have I got? If you wanted, you could go down to something like the shoreline here, get some more crisp points on the edge. And at that, we'll call it done for points. Just add as many points as you need. So now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to select all of my auto tracks, and I actually can't select all my auto tracks because I'm going to end up selecting these points on the log. But I can select all the 0 weight points, which are my point cloud points. I'm going to select them all because, you know, we need to triangulate a mesh off of them, but I don't want to triangulate a mesh with all these points on the logs. So let's go up to Script, Trackers, Select by Type, and I'll defaults this. And if you went automatic, you're going to select all auto points. See, I selected all the ones that I didn't want, so I'm going to undo, Script, Select by Type, turn off automatic, and I'm going to come down to 0 weighted instead. And now I've grabbed all of my points, including those 0 weights that I added. And if you wanted, you can start highlighting in some of those points that you auto-tracked earlier if you so happen to like them. Not those log points. Something in that open space, definitely important. Maybe find areas like this and put some trackers if you can. Okay, with all the points added that I wanted now, I am going to run into F3, back where we see our 3D points in perspective, and let's find a good angle. Oh, this is a good spot for me to show you how bad this can be. So let's go right click, mesh operations, convert to mesh. So we have all the vertices now. Turns out it's a red mesh. Wow, that's kind of hard to see. Let's go back to mesh operations, triangulate, and see, look at how messy that became since I projected at an angle. So let's undo it and do it from a top-down perspective. Back to mesh operations, triangulate. And hey, look at how much cleaner that turned out. By the way, while I'm here, actually, let's just watch this first. Let's hit F2, and let's start hiding things we don't want to see. So J hides the 3D points, Control J hides the trackers. And now you can see we have this pretty nifty surface. So that's about it for the triangulated mesh. I'm going to clean this up and extend it in Maya. But before I go, I just want to show you, if you want to do any kind of cleanup at SYNTHEYES, this is all I have to offer you. F3, with your mesh selected, there we go. You can come up to smudge relax, relax mesh, and now if you scroll wheel, you can see you have a brush size that you're scaling up and down. So now if I paint on this mesh, you could see that we are relaxing all of the faces, averaging out the topology. So we can make some pretty nice clean stuff here and keep a little bit of that rigidness, but again, you are going to erode your detail doing this. So if you're going to go this route, just, you know, keep in mind that you're going to lose all of that crazy detail that might actually be there. So, you know, control that as best you can. And also clean up some of your points, like look for bad stray floating points if you can, like lock onto some details and scrub around and delete some of those points if they're really, really bad. But yeah, so L lock to camera, you can give it a little bit of a smooth here if you insist. Give it a watch. But yeah, I'm going to undo that. Alright, so with that being said, let me just go ahead and apply my distortion. Let's pretend that the shot is done. And I'm going to export this camera and this mesh from Maya, and I'll get back to you in the Maya side of things. I might actually show you how to export this stuff. We'll see. Save. So file, Maya ASCII scene is what I happen to want to use. I already have a Maya file here. I'm going to overwrite it. And okay, only thing I want is ZXY, which if you don't have it on, doesn't matter. It won't affect you, chances are, but that's a good habit. Okay, and now I exported the plate already, but you can go save sequence, dots, and you can check out my SYNTHEYES to Maya video if you want to know how to do that. But, you know, you can render out your plate. I already did it. So now, I'm going to select the mesh I want to export. File. Mesh isn't seen as OBJ. And I already have an export here, so I'm going to click it and overwrite it as well. And selected meshes is on. Cool. Now we're here with a fresh Maya. I'm going to go Control O for open. And I'm going to select my Maya file. If I had exported that last instead of my mesh, I would have just pasted the path right here and open, but you see it's the object. So I'm going to select my file instead and open into it. And now let's do a quick setup. I'm going to split my view, expand my camera, middle mouse drag it to this window because I like it there. And I'm going to hold space, click in the center, and go up to perspective for this one. Let's take the perspective camera, Control A, so I get my attribute editor, and we're going to expand the near and far clip plane a bit. There we go. Now we can zoom in and out. I'm going to take the plate. I named it earlier to have underscore UD for undistort, and at the end of it, it's supposed to be JPEG instead of EXR. Enter. And now I have my plate. And I don't want to see it in this viewport, so I'm going to go looking through camera. Awesome. Now you could see we have our scene quickly set up in Maya. Oh my god, I almost nailed that all the way through. Almost. Okay, so let's go Control I for import. And I'm going to paste since I have that object path, and I guess that's the object there, so whatever. Import. And here's our mesh. It looks a little ugly. You don't have to do this, but I'm going to do this. I'm going to go space, mesh display, set to face. The normals are a little bit, well, I guess I didn't need to make them crisp. Shift right click, soften. It doesn't matter. I don't know why I'm even worrying about the softness of the normals. Alright, so first things first, aliasing on because we have a lot of edges. Plus you should always have anti-aliasing. Plus you should always have anti-aliasing on in any software that you're doing match move in. Any jagged edges might trick you into thinking that there's popping where there isn't. So turn on wireframe on shaded so that when you click off you have your wireframe, and that's because we're going to apply a use background shader. So right click, assign favorite material, use background. And now, provided you're in 5 shaded mode, not 4, not wireframe, 5. Now you get a very nice wireframe mesh, and it'll actually occlude other wireframes behind it. Let's put this mesh onto a display layer and make it kind of a darker red. There we go. Cool. So we have this and it looks awesome. So what do we do with it now? First, let me save. So what do we do with this now? I'm going to show you how to put a cleaner mesh on top of this instead of having this messy triangulated look. So I also want to extend the beach out. I'm going to be projecting a mesh. I'm going to be shrink wrapping a mesh onto this, but we need some extra territory out here. So I'm going to go edge, select the whole thing, and let's go extrude. Shift right click, extrude edge. And I'm just going to go into scale and immediately start expanding this out. Wow, that's a little trippy to look at. What angle am I at? Ah, there we go. That took a moment for my eyes to adjust to what was going on. So yeah, we've expanded out the beach a little bit, so we have some more to project onto. Back into object mode. And yes, so here's how we shrink wrap. So to shrink wrap, first let me go wireframe unshaded, and let's get into a brighter viewport with Alt B. So I'm going to make a plane, create plane, and just keep it with the polyplane input. Don't delete history right now. And if you really wanted to, you could expand this out to cover the full length of your beach. And in fact, I might do that now. Yeah, I'm going to leave it like that. I'm going to let it engulf the beach a little bit. Okay, so let's turn the divisions up a little bit. And with that on, let's select this mesh. So we want to transfer the mesh attributes, or the whatever, I don't know the technical terms. We want to transfer attributes from this mesh to this mesh. So I'm going to select this, and then this. Hold space, come to Mesh, Transfer Attributes Options box. Now that we're here, let's go default. Okay, so now that we have the default settings, vertex position. Yes, we want the vertices to move. Vertices to move. On. Vertex normal. I honestly don't know if that matters for us right now. It really doesn't, but I'm going to go on anyway. It's just a habit of mine. UVs. You can transfer UVs with this stuff. In this case, no. We might as well keep the nice UVs of the plane as it is. Color sets, no, doesn't matter. Sample space. We're gonna stick to world, but you could work within you can work with UVs, like I said, and transfer. You can basically project one UVs from one mesh to the other. But again, we're gonna stick with world. Also topology, you can even snap other meshes. Like if you have a head and then you have another head that's deformed, but it's the same topology, you can snap them like this. It's pretty cool. I'm getting ahead of myself. So let's go world. And mirroring now, search method. If I did closest point, all these points are gonna snap to the mesh, but every point is gonna, from the far distances, fly over and snap to these edges as well. So closest along normal. So each face will only draw a straight line from itself and then land on the mesh. So transfer. Look at what we've done. we've projected some nice quads onto our beach. So let's actually move. Oh, by the way, we can move this now any way that we want, and you could see it update. Really cool stuff. Oh, there's the normals that I said probably wouldn't affect us. I should have turned that off, but whatever. We can fix the normals later. Actually, you know what? Let's just do it now. Undo. So mesh, transfer attributes, normals off, transfer. And did that fix it? Yeah, it did. Okay, so let's just move this down. So yeah, you can move it, you can scale it if you want. You could even rotate it. But for now, let's just pick something decent. So if I scale it, you can see I can get some denser detail and kind of map this how I want. And I guess I'm going to go with something like this. I'm going to let the faces go and meet the edge of the water over there. I want to scale it up this way. Again, you could scale it if you want. I like to keep things as uniform as possible. That's just a habit of mine. And if you need more divisions, select your plane, and if you didn't delete your history, you can come to polyplane, divisions, and turn this up a bit more if you need to. I'll just go to 70 just to show. There we go. Lovely history. All right, so with that out of the way, you know what? Let's pretend that this mesh is done. If you want, you can take another lower res plane and project it out further, so it's not such dense it's not so dense as it is now. So delete history. Let's hide our tri-mesh and apply our use background to this and just give it a watch. Let's actually put it into this display layer first. There we go. Look at that. We got some pretty cool stuff. And you know what? I don't know why the mesh is floating down right here. I probably didn't extend it as much as I should have. But the point is hey, it worked. So we have some pretty cool stuff here, and looks like I got some log as well. My bad. Oh well. That's about it. That's all I got. That's how you triangulate a mesh in SYNTHEYES, and this is a quick way to give it a much cleaner surface in Maya. If you wanted to, if somebody really requested it, you could hit it with another smooth and do whatever you gotta do. Round out those edges. You know. Whatever whoever wants. And yeah, that's all I got. So have fun with that. Bye.